We're live here, just waiting for the game between Brian and Joseph to start. This is a quarterfinal game, and let's take a look at the brackets here before we get started. Joseph and Brian are down here, the semifinal game. They've beaten out 2 rounds to get to this point, and whoever wins this round goes into the finals. We're going to find out right now who is going to win. Game is just started. Look like they having some technical difficulties. Oh, the problem was it was a 1-minute game. They needed a 10-minute game, so looks like Brian's accidentally started the game with somebody else here, so I'll just wait for them to get it going. Looks like this is the right setup. And we have the king's pawn. All right. Looks like I could... Okay, sorry. Let's see here. This kind of looks... This is very, very interesting. Kind of looked like there was an attack going on f7 here, trying to get the knight and the bishop aligned to attack, but the knight wasn't defended. Maybe played some of the moves in the wrong order. Now the queen's under attack. Black throws in a check, which is going to be problematic because white can block the check and attack the bishop back, which is going to leave both the bishop and the queen hanging. So Brian might be in some trouble here. He's up 2 points already, but he's going to have to give some of it back. Maybe he can grab the pawn here, threaten the rook. Get out of the attack by creating some counterplay and counterattacking somewhere else. Just going to adjust the board here a little bit. There we go, that looks a little bit better. Just ever so slightly off. Okay, black leaves everything hanging to attack with a third piece, throwing in the knight to get the check in here. Very bold, but now attacks the rook and leaves the queen hanging, which is going to be really expensive. That puts Joe up in front, counterattacking the bishop. The black's own bishop is still hanging here. So this is a wild, crazy game. Lots going all over the place. White captures the bishop. Black's going to capture the bishop, and that'll be a trade. It's going to leave white up material slightly. Now white's on the offense here, having clear lines to the king. The king's trapped in the center of the board. White kind of gave up some early opportunity to develop pieces and get the king to safety in order to get the attack going. And you kind of see this in games where the attack falls through or doesn't have, isn't a killing blow. Now you have to scramble to get your position sound here. This is a nice block, but white seeing that they can just sacrifice the bishop, coming in with a fork on the king and the rook here. This undeveloped bishop here, not not helping matters. Um, and this check comes in. The king's going to have to move. And now the queen pins the knight to the back rank. You can't develop the knight without hanging the rook in the corner. So it's going to be a very uncomfortable position here. Um, the yeah, that puts Joe 6 points up. Very clean advantage. 7 points with this pawn, and um, Black's only chance is to quickly develop, get something going. Maybe try to get some counterattack going. It doesn't seem like much. White can easily shut this down, but I think it's all you've really got going at the moment. This kind of blocks the escape of the knight, and now the knight is trapped on the side of the board. So you kind of can't play with the knight on on A1. The first game might be going to Joe here. Of course, it's not over till it's over. You kind of want to you want to fight to the last moment that you can here. Try and get some counterplay. If your opponent doesn't defend accurately, you might get something. Yeah, that's a good move. There's just there's a lot here for white to play with, and yeah, this check, black has got to fall back to protect both the rook and the bishop. But that's, okay, fortunately it doesn't, there's no check here. The queen can't check on c8 because it's defended by the bishop. This move I don't like as much because it blocks the rook, but I can sort of understand the idea. If you can get your king into the corner here, you'll have some safety from the checks. It's going to cost you the 2 pawns here to do so, but yeah, it could be worth it. This double attacks the queen and the pawn in front of the king, which we were interested in anyway. Trying to decide if this order works okay. It looks like there's no checks that can hit both the knight and the king because the bishop guards this diagonal. So that's okay. The king can't retreat now, has to go back and guard the bishop. Can't make it to the g8 square even if it wanted to because the queen covers it. And yeah, okay, bishop blocks is an interesting idea. The white can continue to harass black's king just by bouncing around here. Maybe this check and the king hides in the corner and you've gotten out of it. So maybe you just take the pawn instead. Try and get some material here. Okay, this gets out of the way. Now the king can definitely retreat and has an attack here. I guess the queen is kind of keeping an eye on this square to make sure that things don't get out of hand. I don't like this move as much because the king's really exposed out here. Probably would have been better hiding in the corner until the queen is dealt with. There's no direct way to attack the king here, so it actually seems relatively safe right now. But maybe after some pawn moves, you could get the rook involved, and it looks a little scary. This nice move of attacking the knight in the corner, which can't go anywhere. Now you might as well just take the pawn, try to win 2 pawns for the knight. This doesn't work because the knight can just go back. And still eyeing up that square, but we need to somehow distract the queen from defense there for our attack to have any fuel. Five minutes on the clock for Brian, 6:20 for Joe? Yeah, you'd almost love the queen to step on a square that would allow some kind of tactic. Um, the knight's in the wrong place for that, so that doesn't work right now. But yeah, sometimes it's nice to visualize the knight move, especially when that pawn moves. That was an important pawn. I guess it was guarding that square. I guess the knight can't go there immediately and has to find a different place to go. I don't know where you put it. Maybe you bring it back. But the knight was really happy on that square. Actually, this isn't. White is not threatening to capture this piece. You can leave it here because this pawn is pinned to the king. So that's not a threat to capture. It's a phantom threat. You can just leave the knight there. But what do you do? Because like this is really kind of solid. How do you get through White's defenses here? Brian really feeling the material deficit here. Hard to come up with some counterplay. Fortunately, I mean, the best thing going for Black right now is that White's rook is trapped in the corner and it isn't able to get out. So you're really playing a knight, a bishop, and a rook against a queen and a knight. So it's not horrible. It's not over. But now this kind of gets the rook into the game. Now you're really outpowered here. This is kind of a different matter. White can even afford to just sack the knight, sack the rook for the knight, and still is going to be up material. Okay, this is an interesting idea, getting the king involved. It looks like it drops defense. Can't draw arrows. It drops defense of the g7 pawn. And so if the queen comes in with check, yeah, okay, that's a different issue. The king was like oddly safe on g6, but moving off of that square enabled a bunch of checks to happen. Probably should just move back. But now the queen has more checks, so that might be a little bit annoying. You can't take the rook because the queen guards the rook right through the king. Okay, headed to the corner here, trying to avoid more checks. This is a smart idea. This doesn't work because the pawn covers it. You can check in the corner, and Black will have to go back. Actually, that might work. So queen checks in the corner, king moves, and then queen takes h5 with check. And now king's only move is f6, and maybe rook takes then, and I think Black can't recover any of that material. Like there's maybe bishop takes, but you could even just trade the queen off, rook takes, pawn takes, and White would still be up a knight for the end of the game. But this is a nice tactic here, throwing in a check. The king has to move, and the rook is exposed. Unfortunately, it's guarded by the queen, so I don't know. Black doesn't really want the trade in this position. These are the only three pieces you've got. They're not super strong on their own. You need them to work together to have any chance at all. Um, White's just doing a fantastic job of staying behind this pawn shield and muting the effectiveness of Black's pieces. Black trying to come up with something. Brian's only got a minute and 40 seconds to figure it out. Not seeing how he's going to turn this around. Okay, we see the rook trade. Queen takes back. Oh, interesting. Okay, taking the knight instead. Maybe missing the opportunity to grab the rook, or maybe just not afraid of the rook. The rook is having trouble finding places to go. There's a lot of squares that don't really work. Yeah, okay. You can head back here, but this is defended, so maybe heading to the back where you defended the attack the knight was better, but the king still comes back. Like, it's hard to see how you turn this into an advantage. That queen is just too strong, and Joe finds a great idea here. There's a saying, passed pawns must be pushed, and Joe's got all the passed pawns, and the closer he pushes them to the end of the board, the more queens he's got. So the bigger the threat of making a queen. Brian says, that's a great idea. I'm going to push my own pawns. But they're not passed, so meaning White can just capture them and then can continue to push his own pawn unopposed. And we're not in the right position to stop that pawn at all. None of the pieces can get over there. This move doesn't have any solid threat with it. Unfortunately, this check is going to pick up the bishop, and then probably the king too, because, king's got to move, queen takes the bishop, and then queen's threatening check with winning the rook. There isn't really anywhere the rook can go to get out of this, so I think the rook's going to fall right after. Brian only has 16 seconds left. I think this game's over. First one going to Joe. Yeah, sacrificing the knight. I like this. Keep making moves. Okay, he resigned. Having no pieces left, it's gonna be too difficult. Okay, looking for game two. First game went to Joseph. Brian needs a win here to turn it around. Let's see what happens. Okay, here we go. Oh, we have technical difficulties. This is the wrong person. Need to hit the rematch button. If you hit the new game button, you end up with the you end up playing a random player. I'll see if I can message Brian. You might have figured it out already. Looks like he needs to abort this game and start a new one. Looks like he sorted it out. Waiting for game 2 to start here. Okay. We got it. Okay, I'm not sure if the colors changed. Was Joe... Joe was white last time. Yeah, so we did get the colors changed. Okay. This is great. We've got... this is the Blackmar Deemer Gambit. And white is giving away this pawn and giving away a second pawn to get quick development. Very, very interesting. He's actually playing the... Oh, okay. I was really surprised here. The correct move was playing the knight out, keeping the pawns together, getting early development with the knight, and kind of trading those pawns in return for the quick development. Playing the pawn kind of it takes up a space from the knight and blocks the diagonal of the queen a bit, so missed opportunity there. Strong start though. I do like the bishop falling back, getting onto a more active diagonal, hitting the queen. I also love this knight development, hitting the queen, kind of punishing black for having a queen out so early in the game. You know, if the queen comes out early and you can push it around the board, you can often, oh my god, you can often take advantage of it. And Joe blunders. This puts the queen in line with the pawn, and Brian sees it and captures the queen right away. This game 2 looks like it's going to go to Brian. This is like a opposite of game 1, where we had a queen loss by Brian. Now we have an early queen loss by Joseph. Wow, this this even helps white by connecting the two pawns back together. White is in great shape here. I kind of, I would kind of want to. Okay, well maybe bring the knight out here to reinforce the other knight. Move the queen up, not to that square, to a square where it's not attacked somewhere. Or I can maybe get the bishop out. Just try and get castled. Try and line the rook and the queen up, and threaten checkmate. It's a lot of moves. Hard to make it all happen like that. This move allows black to capture and break up the pawn structure, which was not ideal. Just defending it and preparing to recapture with the knight. Defending it also helps you develop the other knight at the same time, so you avoid the doubled pawns and you get a piece developed. It's kind of it's a good deal. This kind of breaks up your structure. You really have nowhere safe to castle now. There's no pawn structures that you can hide the king behind. So a bit of a concession by white. Black is going to bring the rook over, threaten the queen. Queen's going to have to get out of the way. I do like this, taking the open file. With the pawns out of the way, white has an eye to take the b7 pawn. But takes it too soon, doesn't get the queen out of the way. And now both queens are off the board. White is still winning after recapturing this rook. Because black is going to be down a rook instead of down a queen now. Oh, misses the opportunity to recapture. And that leaves the material even, which is not what Brian wanted. This is a great move, threatening the rook in the corner, and you can't block with the knight because the knight prevents the rook from taking as well. So um, a big pickle here. Uh, yeah, maybe just capture this knight on the other side of the board, kind of make up for the problem. Black here can capture the hanging bishop. White can capture a pawn and force the trade of bishops. If you don't see that the bishop can move back and capture, okay, Joseph does see it, but you could win the bishop if your opponent doesn't see it across the board. Now, where to put the knight? You have to pick the rook. You have to pick a spot where the the knight is not going to be able to capture you. If you stay in line with the c pawns, you can guard the c3 pawn. Also, maybe moving back to the corner threatens check. Okay. You kind of want your rook behind the pawns to be able to push them all the way down the board. Okay, get the knight into the game with tempo on the rook. Rook's probably going to recapture there or give it away for free. So black gives it up, and now Brian's up again. And okay, we have minor pieces are even. We've got 2 rooks and 2 knights, but Brian's got all these passed pawns here, which if he can get down the board and turn them into queens, he'll have a solid victory. Okay, you'll want it to drop back and defend that, so that if you can't capture it so easily. Gives you time to develop the knight and push the pawn again, get the rook behind it. Okay, this is maybe being too nice, giving up the pawn for nothing. I think maybe the idea is that you can get the other pawn further down the board at the same time, but it's a bit risky. I think in the end games you probably want to hold on to it. This is troublesome because you can't go to, okay, this is the only move that saves the knight, blocking with the knight. If you move the king, the rook just takes the knight. But this hurts. You got 2 attackers here. There's no way to defend this. White's losing a knight. You may just want to move so that you're out of the discovered check. Okay, black should have blocked behind the pawn, wants to be behind it as well. White now needs to go behind it. Or better yet, beat b8 here. Brilliant. Okay, pinning the rook. Now the pawn recaptures in queens. Now white has a queen here. This is pretty much game over. White can capture the knight that's hanging, and should. This gives it a chance to get away. We've got a check here, which doesn't really do much. I think white should go around and attack the pawns, try and harass. Okay, black now is almost trapped. Has 1 square to get the knight away to. All the other squares were covered. And you'll want to cover the remaining squares and then attack the knight again. And you'll notice the knight is now trapped. H4 would have trapped the knight. H4 still traps the knight. Has no available squares. Black needed to play f6 here, just making room for the knight to get away. This gives up the defense of the e4 square, so the knight's not trapped anymore. There's not really an attack back here. Yeah, this unfortunately, we open the box here and let black get out. No matter where the king goes, black still has a square to get out. Possible opportunity to trap it again if you can Move the king here to cover the two squares. Move the queen back to cover the back square. You may have another opportunity to trap the knight. This allows a check, which is a little bit annoying. Black can get to a safe square. Brian leading here with 4 minutes to go. Joseph with 5.5 minutes on the clock. His only hope is really trying to figure out how to push the pawns down the board. I think with accurate play here, there's really no chance that Joseph comes back. Queen here now, hitting both the knight and the pawn. This is yeah, queen here, check, hits the knight. Kind of game over. You lose your last fight here. That's a missed opportunity. You need to get your queen out of danger now. Oh no, he drops the queen. I don't think Joseph's going to miss that. And now it's a pawn fight, but oh no, he didn't recapture the knight. Joseph's up in material now. Okay, your only chance is check. King comes back, check. Okay, we see it this time. Gave Joseph an opportunity to move the knight away, and I think he missed it. This is a nice move by white. Black can't get into the position because of the pawn here, and it needs to be careful. Okay, so walks too far forward, and now this pawn can run the rest of the way, and queen. White can't get back in time to stop it. It's always one square ahead. You can draw. Okay, no, wait. Black blundered, and white blundered. No, white could have stopped the pawn. If you draw a box from the pawn, white needs to get inside that box, which he's just done, to be able to stop the pawn. This might be a draw. This is maybe a draw with accurate play. Okay. Brian's played this well. He needs to stay in front of the pawn. And he can prevent black from queening. The black king needed to stay in front of the pawn as well, but can't get there. No, you went the wrong way. You need to block the pawn, and it was a draw. Now black queens, and you can't get back. And resigns. That's 2 games to Joseph. That means Joseph is the winner. Wow, that was back and forth. Okay, Joseph with the 2 points. That moves Joseph on to the last round. Joseph will be our first contender in the finals for the D bracket. Congratulations.